and welcome back to Raised by Giants, where we talk all things spirituality. I'm Ryder Lee. Tonight, we have Chief Science Officer of C60 Purple Power and former Mufon consultant, Ken Swartz. But before I introduce him, Raised by Giants is on Rokfin. Go over there, set up a Rokfin account. I release one premium video over there a week, and it is less than a YouTube premium account, and you'll get all of my premium content when it gets released and all of the other creators' premium content as well. Check the link in the description to sign up for the video streaming platform, Rokfin. Also, if you would like to make a donation to help this channel grow and produce more content, you can donate on PayPal or buy me a coffee to help support my work. It is 100% completely optional, but is unfortunately the only alternative other than monetization. And we know what happens to channels like this when monetization gets involved. And I want to keep this channel. I like being here with you guys. So if you can donate, I'd very much appreciate it. No donation is too small. And thanks to everyone that's donated so far. I appreciate each and every one of you for your kind and generous donations. Check the link in the description for donation options. Thank you. So without further ado, tonight we have the Chief Science Officer of C60 Purple Power and former MUFON consultant, Ken Swartz. Ken is the founder and Chief Science Officer of C60 Purple Power. He has ran several research science laboratories over the course of his career and discovered C60 while developing the Mct fusion reactor. During his research, he became aware of the powerful free radical neutralizing properties of C60. In 2016, he founded C60 Purple Power. Ken, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming on, brother. How are you doing?
Oh, doing great, and I'm glad to be on.
Yeah, I've actually been using C60 Purple Power for probably about a year and a half. I had a yearly subscription, and it really does do a lot. So I figured where we would start this off with here tonight, Ken, is what is C60 and how does it work in our bodies? How does it help us? What are the benefits of C60 Purple Power?
Well, carbon 60 is a molecule of 60 carbon atoms shaped like a little soccer ball. If you can see the visuals, you can see behind me kind of a little representation of it. And it was discovered in 1985. It actually solved a mystery in astronomy, the diffuse interstellar bands. It's made in atmospheres of giant red stars, and so there's a lot of it in outer space. And then they got a Nobel Prize in 1996 for in chemistry because it's a unique structure. You know, it's like a spherical cage-like structure, really the first of a kind of any atom in the periodic table. And then it was really hard to make, and it wasn't until like early 2000s that they found methods of making it that made appreciable quantities that affordable. And so they started doing animal testings, and one of the first tests was the Botry study, and they found that it basically doubled the lifespan of Wistar rats by basically completely preventing the occurrence of cancers and other diseases associated with aging in Wistar rats.
That's interesting. So what is the C60 property made out of? From my understanding, it comes from meteors and dead stars?
Well, yeah. In nature, it's like lightning strikes. Like lightning strikes a tree. Tree's made of carbon. You can get some carbon 60. In fact, the burnt wick of your candle is like 0.25% C60. So it can happen there. And, meteoritic impacts, when they hit carbonaceous rock, that's calcium carbonate, limestone. It can make C60 in the fireball, and it's made in the atmospheres of giant red stars. But to really get pure C60, it has to be made in a lab. And we make it pretty much the same way that it's made in the atmospheres of giant red stars, in that we basically take there's a light helium atmosphere container, maybe at 1/10 the pressure of Earth's atmosphere. And you put two graphite rods in there. And that's graphite. That's the kind of carbon in your pencil, but it's, of course, super pure. And then you run electrical discharge through it. And if you do it right, you get about 10% will turn into fullerenes. And then that's when the hard part comes, and that's separating the fullerenes from the production ashes, and the fullerenes from like the C60 fullerene from the C70 and C84 fullerenes, which are also produced in that process. And and that's something people, our producers have used sublimation. And if you people remember from high school chemistry class or college chemistry class, sublimation is like the cousin of evaporation. So when a solid turns into a vapor or a gas, and then turns back into a solid when it cools down. And so that's our C60. And a lot of producers also use sublimated C60. A lot of people use C60 that is made in solvent base. They use methylbenzene, toluene. It's like a carcinogenic industrial chemical to separate their C60, and then they try to bake it off till it's all gone. But there's always going to be a little bit there, and avoiding toxic chemicals is probably the reason you're taking C60 in the first place. So look for sublimated C60 when you're buying a product. We're not the only ones that have sublimated C60, but it's what you want because it's the healthiest and best for you.
And that's what sets you apart from other people that are producing C60, right? Because there's a lot of people that are selling C60, but it's not pure C60 like you guys are selling, right?
Oh yeah, and that's why you want to look for sublimated C60, because like when you do sublimation, your C60 is going to come out 99.96 or 99.97 or 99.99, depending on the steps you do to get there. So it's really high purity C60 no matter what. But the problem is when you see like 99.9% C60, right? That means it's the solvent method, because the solvent method is, let's say, less impure. It leaves solvent in it, and then they have to bake it and bake it again and bake it again. And so when you're looking at 99.9%, the other 0.1% is solvent, methylbenzene. So, probably what you don't want to take. But just be aware of that. And of course, there's a lot of people out there that are selling products without any C60, like activated charcoal, or they have supercharged C60. There's no such thing as supercharged C60, right? C60 molecule is the same as any other molecule. And if you attach something to it, then it's not C60 anymore. It's something else, right? And they say they have nestled fullerenes, but if you put C60 inside of that actually doesn't exist, but even if you did, it wouldn't be C60 anymore. And so you just want to look, and when the C60 market was small, everybody was, they're good quality products. Everybody made them for their customers themselves. But then C60 became popular. And once C60 became popular, then you had all these fly-by-nighters get in that, substandard C60, no C60 in their product at all. And we have a QR codes on the side of our product that's on the boxes. And you can actually go to the QR code and you can see like where it came from, because we use all organic 100% oils. And we pick the Goldilocks oils, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. It's organic because, everybody knows about the Mediterranean diet. But, when it first came out, that's kind of how I discovered it. I was working on the metal fusion oxygen reactor project. It's when you fuse a metal with oxygen. And it was successful, by the way. What happened from there is I went out because, a lot of the scientists have been working on that process. They didn't really understand what was going on. We didn't understand what was going on. We did figure it out. So I went out looking for an extra radiation protectant. And I discovered this stuff called carbon-60. Like they gave one set of rats got the carbon-60, the other control group didn't get anything. They hit them with a fatal dose of radiation. All the C60 rats lived, and the control ones, immediately died. So I learned about that. I said, hey, I'm getting some C60. So I got C60 from a couple of sources, and we took it while we were doing the experimentation. And we're still all around, by the way. So it did work in that respect. We actually found in the Moxie fusion what was happening was Moxie fusion is like it's like muon fusion. It lowers the Coulomb barrier, so the resulting nuclei put out their energy in the X-ray band rather than the gamma ray band. And these guys were walking around with Geiger counters, which can only detect which can only detect gamma rays. Well, in the meantime, they were being super X-rayed. And it also, they use a fused platinum or palladium metals with, you hold that stuff called Leonard or cold fusion. What was really going on is it wasn't the deuterium fusing in the platinum or palladium lattice. It was actually the platinum fusing with oxygen and producing radon. And if it was palladium, it'd make a radioactive xenon. And these are, they alpha-emitting particles, right? They're really radioactive, really nasty. And so it'd be like working in 1,000 times the worst radon basement you could imagine. So.
Wow. So it has a lot of, it protects from radiation poisoning and helps with aging. What's some of the other benefits that C60 has? Because you have 3 different kinds. This one's the coconut oil, you have the avocado oil, and then you have the olive oil. What's the difference between the different products that you saw?
The olive oil or the avocado oil. The olive oil, we all know the Mediterranean diet. the avocado oil, I kind of have a sensitive digestive system. So if I took like, let's say an ounce of olive oil, I might have to go visit the bathroom. But with avocado oil, I don't have to do that because it's much easier digested with the body and it's just as healthy for you. It's got a really good profile. And then the MCT coconut oil, that's different. MCT stands for medium chain triglycerides. And it's kind of like a distillation of coconut oil. And when you take that, if you have like a glucose processing issue, your liver can turn MCTs into ketones, which your cells can use as an immediate energy source. So people with glucose processing issues, it's like flex fuel for your body, so you don't have that glucose crash. Your cells keep functioning, and athletes love it too because it's like a super boost of energy, right? It gets you right there. So competitive athletes just love MCT oil. So that's kind of the ones. And my friend Gary Rodriguez. So by the way, I kept taking the C60 after our experimentation was over because it kept, the energy was up. I didn't crash after lunch sometimes. You know how you do that? You'd have a crash if you eat too many carbs. That kind of went away. When I went to my eye doctor about 7 months later, my DRUs or dry macular degeneration had completely disappeared, which my eye doctor had never seen in as many decades of practice. He was a really old guy. And then also that's actually how I got the MCT oil, because my friend Gary Rodriguez, he was the electrical engineer on our project. He had developed wet macular degeneration, the severe kind. He had we used to be able to post before and after pictures, but that's making claims, so we had to take them down. But you could just look at the inside of his eyeballs, and there was all kinds of lesions on the inside of his eyeballs. And so I made an MCT because he had, type 2 diabetes, Rodriguez, right? Kind of runs in the family. So he not only does his wet after 1 year of taking a tablespoon a day. If you have these things, don't go overnight. C60 is not a magic pill. If you've had a problem that's taken a long time, it's going to take a long time to fix it, because what C60 does, it just lifts the oxidative burden your cells are under. Then it's up for your cells to fix the problem. That's why you're going to need to eat good, healthy diet, clean water, lower your stress and exposure to toxins, all exercise, good sleep, all those things you need to do that if you want to heal, you got to do those. C60 can help, but it's not a magic pill. But after a year of Gary was doing all that stuff. And after a year of that, his wet macular degeneration had completely healed. I mean, gone in the photos, and his type 2 diabetes went away. So,
and he was taking a tablespoon a day?
Tablespoon a day in the morning. And yeah, we recommend taking in the morning because it does have a stimulatory effect. You can put it in your coffee, or you can mix it with your food, or you can take it straight if you're used to taking oils, right? If you've never taken an oil straight before, you need to put it with your food because it might just go right through you. Your body will learn to digest the oil over about 6 weeks, but until it does, you need to probably take it with food just so the digestion works better.
So that's kind of the recommended dose is 1 tablespoon in the morning.
It matters for let's say if you weigh, let's say 110 to 140 or 50, right? And that's probably, and you're in your mid 30s or something, 40s, 30s, 20s, probably a teaspoon will work for you. But if you're bigger or older, like I'm 6'1", I'm down to 180 pounds and I got a little bit of gray hair. So for me, it's a tablespoon a day, sometimes more.
I'm getting some gray hairs on here too. So
yeah, you're doing pretty good. So don't worry about it. You got a few years to catch up.
Yeah, I just like to take a little swig of them whenever I don't even measure it out. So
yeah. And that's probably about a tablespoon right there.
Yeah.
If you do it, because 2 tablespoons is a shot glass.
Yeah.
But that's an English shot glass. If it's an American shot glass, it's actually 3 tablespoons. Yeah, tablespoons. Yeah. Americans said we're not going with that English shot glass. We're putting more. We're increasing it by 50%. Americans had to have bigger shot glasses, but the English shot glass is 2 tablespoons per shot glass.
So what would happen? I'm just curious. I'm not recommending anybody to do this. I'm just kind of curious. What would happen if someone just took an entire, just swigged this entire thing? Does it become poisonous at all? Is there any?
Well, no, C60. Well, obviously it's in an oil, so you're probably going to have a digestive. It's going to go out the backside because your body can't digest that much oil at one time. But we've had people that take 2 ounces a day. We had doctors were doing that, and they had they were claiming that they became telepathic because their wife would walk in the room and they knew exactly what she was going to say before she said it. And but others said that other women commented that no, he was just responding well to training. But so I'm not sure on that one. But yeah, he had some pretty, yeah, and a lot of people, we have like psychics and dowsers and other people that, that use C60, and they say that C60 really helps in whatever they do. It kind of just eliminates the static. So whatever they're doing, it works better. So, and that's the first thing C60 does, because it's an antioxidant, but it's really good at, there's the most damaging oxidative radicals in the body. And like in your inflammation, it's the neutrophils produce their little nerve cell or little immune cells, and they get into an infection site, and they produce superoxide and the hydroxyl radical, and they use it to kill like bacteria. And because those are the most damaging oxidative radicals in the body. And also your mitochondria make because it's like a little furnace, right? It's making ATP, the main energy molecule for your cell. But there's all kinds of chemistry going on in your mitochondria to make these high energy molecules. And one of the byproducts is superoxide and the hydroxyl radicals too. And C60 uniquely neutralizes those two oxidative radicals and nothing else. It does the two most damaging oxidative radicals in the body, which your body doesn't use as signaling molecules. C60 neutralizes, but C60 does not neutralize things like that. Your body has to use some oxidative radicals as signaling molecules. Like, for instance, the nitrogen oxides, they make your capillaries dilate or contract. So, if you didn't have nitrogen oxide, guys, you'd be out of luck. You wouldn't have certainly get a Woody there. Also, things like hydrogen peroxide, the body uses that as a signaling molecule in certain biochemistries. And there's some based around sulfur, iron, zinc. C60 doesn't interfere with any of those. See, like things like if you take vitamin E or sometimes NAC, some of these are signaling molecules, right? You can have negative health effects because they interact with the signaling molecules in your body, whereas C60 doesn't interact. In fact, they had this thing where double the lifespan of test animals, and it increased rats. It did C60, the radiation when I talked about, it did all these benefits. So they finally said, at what level is C60 toxic? So they gave rats like a gram per kilogram of body weight of C60 mixed in oil, which is something like, that's like 10,000 times what has been found to be a health beneficial dose in like scientific studies. And even at that extreme level, there was no toxicity in the animals. If you tried to do that with like vitamin E, you would have killed those animals probably,
Oh,
but
yeah. It's definitely a really good, it helps with skin issues too, right? It's kind of like
it's fantastic on skin issues. And because what it does, it's an SOD catalase mimic. And our mitochondria, our bigger cells produce SOD, which superoxide dismutase, and catalase, and they take care of superoxide, which is an oxygen with an extra electron. What SOD does, it turns it into hydrogen peroxide, and then catalase turns the hydrogen peroxide into water and an oxygen. And they work in a tag team. Well, C60 does the job of both. C60 is kind of unique because you look at the shape behind me. It actually likes to have a positive charge because it has less than 4 carbon electron bonds per carbon. And now most molecules that want a positive charge when they're in solution give up an electron, right? And that makes them positively charged. C60 actually pulls hydrogen ions from the environment and stores it inside of its cage-like structure, up to 6 of them. And then so what a superoxide is, so now C60 is positively charged, a superoxide negatively charged. It's attracted and sticks to the C60. And what the C60 does, it basically just takes the electron, gives it to one of those hydrogen ions, which turns it into hydrogen gas and releases the oxygen back to be oxygen. So it doesn't burden the body with any chemistry, but it neutralizes the hydroxyl or neutralizes the superoxide. And the hydroxyl ion, all it does, that's basically a water molecule missing a proton, and it's negatively charged, got an extra free electron, which can go out and do damage. Well, it's attracted to the C60 molecule, and the C60 molecule basically just releases a hydrogen ion, turns it super hot, turns the hydroxyl ion back into water, and then the C60 can reset itself again and again and again, hundreds of times a second if it needs to be. And that's why it's characterized as several hundred times more powerful than conventional antioxidants, because it can reset itself. But it's super safe because it only works with the oxidative radicals the body doesn't use as signaling molecules, the most damaging two, which are superoxide and the hydroxyl ion.
Can you use this as a topical solution too?
Oh, absolutely. It's wonderful as topical. Like, and it's also anesthesic. It gets rid of pain. Now, we don't know exactly the reason why it's doing that, but like a mosquito bite, you get a mosquito bite, it's itching, right? You put C60 on it. About 20 minutes later, the itching stops. And part of it could be because C60 neutralizes, like when your neutrophils are down there trying to kill off the bacteria that are infecting you, they're releasing like, superoxide and hydroxyl ions. So when it goes in there, it kind of reduces the oxidative burden that you're getting. So then the inflammation is reduced and the pain is reduced. And they did that in rabbits. They gave rabbits arthritis. And not only did C60 get rid of the inflammation and pain, but it actually stimulated cartilage regrowth. Because that's another thing people discover about C60 is that it stimulates stem cell production. So, because we've had, we have a lot of stem cell things here on the Front Range in Colorado. And so we have people that go in that take C60 and they have 70-year-old guys go in and they come, they take stem cells out and they come in and say, what's with you? You got stem cell levels of 20-year-old. And so that's a lot of the body cells, old cells that are senescent get wiped out by C60 and then they're replaced by stem cells. So it kind of makes you younger. People who take C60 a lot for many years have actually had their average telomere length lengthened.
Which one would you recommend more for like a topical solution? Do they all work as a topical solution, or is there
They all
one
work for a topical solution. It's basically, I like the avocado for topical because it has a slightly higher concentration than the Mct coconut oil, and it's pretty easily absorbed. So some people like to use MCT as a topical solution because it's coconut oil, basically light coconut oil. And people use coconut oil for topically for a long time. So it's really debate. Generally, probably stay away from the olive oil as topical. I mean, you can use it. A lot of people do that. The Greeks do, but it's MCT or avocado oil probably the way to go for topical use.
What I found too is taking some and swishing it around in your mouth. Like it really helps with toothaches. It helps with gum reconstruction. Like
Oh yeah, if you have gum problems, yeah, it really does an amazing thing because it gets in there. And C60, it helps the healthy bacteria and it gets rid of the bad bacteria, that anaerobic stuff, that's the nasty stuff. So and also like a lot of people, like I was just reading a paper where they use C60 dissolved in grapeseed oil, but it could be and it got rid of ulcerative colitis. Ulcerative colitis. There it is. You see, ulcerative colitis. Basically, you get holes in your colon from it's one of the typical sort of autoimmune diseases people get, inflammation of your colon, and it actually worked to get rid of it in rats. It just completely eliminated the damage that was caused. They used a chemical, obviously, to cause that dimethyl sulfate to cause that problem, but C60 completely eliminated. C60 doesn't interact with the chemical that's causing the problem. It interacts, kind of strengthens the cells. And another thing your gut cells do is they produce they have secretions that are supposed for healthy, good bacteria that feed healthy, good bacteria. So when you have a healthy gut, you not only get healthy gut cells, but you also have like a layer of good bacteria covering your gut that protects you from any bad bacteria that you get. So that's another good reason to take fiber too, because that fiber kind of helps feed the good bacteria. And so
yeah, that's what I found too, is that whenever I was taking it, I gained a little bit of weight, and then I was like, okay. And so then I started taking some fiber, and then I would make I make like a concoction of like juice. I use avo juice and lemon water, and then I put a little of colloidal silver in it, and then I drink that in the morning, and then I drink it at night, and it helps with my digestion. So I wake up, and then I use the bathroom a couple of times a day. So yeah, I found that that's really what if you're gaining a little bit of weight taking it, then get something to flush your system out a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things we always talk about at Shop C60 now. It used to be C60 Purple Power. We still have the C60 Purple Power band, but now the Shop C60 site, we also have other things that we offer. So there's all kinds of new things coming out. We've got I don't have any of the product with me because I'm traveling, but other than the travel size, but so we're coming out with new products all the time. We'll have a big announcement here in about a month. So, but you'll actually be getting a sample of it, but we can't talk about it yet. So, as an affiliate, we'll be sending those out. So, so we're just doing all that kind of stuff, and it has the QR codes, and then there's other good producers of C60 out there. We're not the only ones, and a lot of them we knew each other from the old days and all that stuff. We still talk. But the things you want to look for in a C60 product, you want to look for sublimated C60, 99.99% pure. Because that pretty much guarantees it's sublimated or it's close to it, the best you can get. And then you want the good oils, because there's a lot of people putting things like in, Well, seed oils. Basically, you should be taking seed oils: canola oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, cottonseed oil, God forbid, soybean oil. These are really high in omega-6s. They're inflammatory, and they're not really made to for people to eat. You can eat sunflowers, right? That's fine, right? But the oil press from them, it's so high in omega-6s, it's inflammatory for you as a person. For a bird, it's perfect. For you, not so good. So we kind of avoided those high omega-6 oils, which cause inflammation, because, why are you taking C60? To avoid inflammation. And then there's other things you got to be careful too. That's like hemp seed oil, flaxseed oil, and fish oils. These are really high in omega-6, omega-3s, right? So the omega-3s are really healthy for you. Problem is they go rancid really badly, And so that's like, I always encourage anybody, if you're taking a fish oil or a hemp seed oil or flaxseed oil, always get that from the refrigerated section of your grocery store, your health food store. Because if you buy a fish oil off the shelf, you don't know how long it's been there. It could easily be rancid, and that's really bad for you. So always get fish oil, krill oil, hemp seed oil, flaxseed oil off the refrigerated section, which is why we don't have, C60 in those oils. We just pick the three good ones, Goldilocks of olive oil, avocado oil, and Mct coconut oil, because they got a great mix of omega-3s and 6s. They're stable and they're healthy for you.
Absolutely. Now you talked about just a little bit ago that C60 doesn't interfere with any kind of vitamins or anything that people are taking, but does it interfere at all with any kind of pharmaceutical prescriptions that anybody might be on? Because we know that there's studies that 85 to 90% of the population is taking some kind of pharmaceutical medication. Is there any interference between any kind of pharmaceutical?
C60 will not interfere with any of the medications you're taking. It cannot interact with them because it only interacts with those high energy oxidative elements. Though there is one counterindication. Is one of the things C60 does, because it's an SOD catalytic mimic. When you take it, it will increase your mitochondria function in your body. So if you have, let's say you're taking blood thinners, it will increase the mineralocorticoid production from your adrenal glands. And that's probably the lack of that is one of the reasons why your blood is, quote, thick and you need to take a thinner. So if you're taking a blood thinner, you take C60, you need to consult with your doctor, because C60 can get rid of the underlying problem, which is causing your blood to be, quote, thick. And then you're taking a blood thinner on top of that. Now your blood's too thin. So you do need to be aware of that. Now it does the same with hormones, but it takes a while. Like we had a guy that was a 70-year-old guy, right? He's in his 70s, early 70s. And he goes to the doctor. He's got like 350 for testosterone level, right? Which is pretty low. And so the doctor gives him creams and he's up in the mid 700s, right? Which is okay for a 70-year-old guy. Well, he started taking C60. Next time he goes into his doctor, his testosterone level is 1200. So his doctor took him off the creams. Said, sorry, you don't need this anymore. So yeah, that is another side effect C60 does. It significantly increases hormone production, especially androgens. So people get like a big increase in libido when you're taking C60. So
it was also interesting how you were talking about the guy that took a lot of it and then he became like psychically. What if it's like it decalcified his pineal gland a little bit and then he was able to psychically get in tune a little bit?
There is a possibility C60 does that, but we don't have a science. We have anecdotal studies that do that and other things, people got scanned and stuff and they don't have problems, but there isn't a scientific study to back that up. Some things C60 does. We know that C60, for instance, will turn things like metal hydroxides, like mercury hydroxide, turn it into an oxide in the test tube. It'll do that. And like it dissolves graphene oxide, just catalyzes it back into carbon dioxide and water like that. It's amazing. But that works in the test tube, not necessarily in the human body. So, and when you turn mercury oxide or aluminum hydroxide into an oxide, then the body it's not biologically active, can't interfere with you. And the body can also grab it in that state and throw it out. So some people say when they first take C60, they got a lot of mouth metal. They'll notice like a little bit of metallic taste the first couple of days, then that goes away, because C60, is like C60 like dislodges inorganic mercury, because you're taking C60 in the milligrams. Mercury is probably in the micrograms. So it dislodges that, prevents it from redepositing it, allows your body to grab it and dump it out. And another thing, people that take C60 have unusually low levels of heavy metals in their body.
So it's kind of flushing out all of the bull crap that we've been
Yes.
eating and drinking through our water and,
Yes. Yeah.
in the
All that.
air and
Yeah.
all that.
It's so
Yeah.
bad now. It's so
Yeah.
bad now. And I mean, you can do everything you want, and we do encourage that. We encourage organics food, just taking organic fruits and vegetables and just doing it for 2 weeks got rid of 90% of the pesticides and herbicides in the body. Right. And obviously, filtering your water, especially that nasty fluorinated water,
Mhm.
because, that's one of the reasons why Americans have so many thyroid problems is because you've heard the hormones T3 and T4. Well, the 3 and the 4 stand for iodine because little 3 iodines get attached to T3 and then your T4 would have 4 iodines, right? One's the active form. Well, the problem is fluoride's in the same atomic family as iodine. And if you got huge fluoride burden from drinking in the water, U.S. puts fluoride in the water the same level that the Nazis and Soviets use in their prisoner of war camps, right? Maybe that could tell you something about how the government feels about you. Uh, and so you
And
can
that
get
messes with the hormone levels of people too. That's why we have people
oh,
developing so much more faster than they were
yeah,
back
exactly. Oh yeah,
years ago.
yeah, it's a toxin, and it shouldn't be there. And so you just have to be careful. And that's another thing. That's why you get water filters to purify your water. I mean, and you have to look for electromagnetic things. Here, let me grab something here.
Uh,
Like things like this. They did a study once where they had they had a study of people with health problems, and what they did is they just were testing. They gave them the like electromagnetic hoods to put on their heads, like this little thing.
yeah.
This is things, or they have beanie. They were actually using a beanie cap, but this is like it's an EM protector because you're living in a condo apartment, and
Yeah.
every single one of the people that had one of these on that used it for like 6 weeks had significant health improvements.
I need one of those. Where did you get that?
This one is it's really cool. It's a really great one. It's called Radis Smart, RADIA Smart. Here, I'll put it up there. Hopefully we can see that. Oh, come on.
Bring it back just a little bit.
Oh,
Oh, there it
oh
is.
there. I can put it in front of me. It's in front of me, then it goes
Yeah.
Radis Smart. Yeah.
Rad is smart. Sweet.
That's a crazy green screen stuff, folks.
That's some magic.
Like magic. Oh, it's not magic. It's green screen.
Who knew Ken was a magician?
Yep. I can instantly disappear. So yeah, so that's things like that, and C60 is one tool in the toolkit for good health. It's an important one, but it's only one, and you got to do all those other things. And there are some side things. Yeah, people that smoke or drink too much, they see when you take C60, it just makes those things like anything doing your bad to your body, it makes them more uncomfortable. So you're not going to get the buzz that you're used to, that's off the nicotine. It kind of like your body says, you really shouldn't be doing this.
Kind of counter reacts it then.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a lot of people that, have got off nicotine and excessive alcohol consumption and other drugs using C60. We're not, because one of the things is, if your brain's not working optimally, your brain has the nerve cells are the most mitochondria of any cells in your body. And because, they work the hardest. Brain's 2 pounds, it's 2% your body weight, and it uses 20% the energy, right? So if it's not working fully, even a slight damage. And so C60 restores mitochondria function. You got your ATP, you got your neurotransmitters can be built, everything can work now. And I think maybe when people's brain health returns, a lot of the things people were using in compensation for whatever problems, the reason for using it goes away. And so you really don't have the desire to use it anymore. It's kind of one of those things. It's not directly from the chicken or the egg. It's kind of in between there. So those are all good things, but it doesn't. C60 was not a magic pill, and it will not replace good lifestyle choices. I mean, if you're on the journey for better health, C60 can help greatly on that journey. But if you're looking for a magic pill, C60 is not going to be that one.
Well, I definitely recommend people check out C60. The website link will be in the description of this video. And if you use promo code Giants10, you'll get 10% off your entire order. They have an amazing selection over there of different kinds of oils. They're adding new products to their website all the time. And I have paid yearly membership through Ken's site for my own C60. So I know that it works. I've been using it for a long time.
Yeah. And if you get membership, you get 20% off all your membership orders. So you get 20% off right off the bat. So.
And that ships to your place once a month, correct?
Yep. Drop ships right there. Yeah. So we got all that set up. Yes, with we have a new website, and it's so much more efficient. No.
Definitely recommend checking the link in the description to at least go over there and check it out and see if it's something that you want to get. You can read about all of the different products on there and what they do. They all do something a little bit different, and I really recommend anybody that's interested go over there and check it out. Where I kind of wanted to go next with you, Kim, we probably got a little bit more time here, is talk about your time at Mufon, because you're a former Mufon consultant, and what you were working on there. Because
Okay, yeah. Well, some of the stuff I can't really talk about, because there's confidentiality. But yeah, I was a Mufon
come on,
consultant.
Ken, you can tell us.
Anyway, we have some stories. It's a lot of it. There was some quasi technology that came out the aliens would contact people and tell them how to build stuff, and they would build it, and then the government would come and confiscate it from them. And so that was one of the ones that if somebody wanted to contact me privately, I could probably speak directly on what it was. It's stuff like that, but some of the stuff. So we just evaluated a lot of reports. Some of it had, we just were looking at, try to figure out what was going on there. I would do stuff with technology because I'm a reverse engineer. That's kind of what I do. I can figure out how things are made or built and then reverse them. And so that's kind of my specialty. And that's what I did. That's how I got involved in the Moxie fusion reactor project. It's because I figured out how it was. I can figure out what the actual mechanism behind things, and that's the key. And so that's kind of what I did a little bit at MUFON, but also we just evaluated general stuff, because you get, a lot of people think, like flying saucers, but for instance, triangle reports. They're one of the most common reports for unidentified flying objects are big triangles, and they fly front forward, right? They don't have point forward most of the time. They fly front forward. Sometimes they're moving fast, they have the point forward, but
that's so interesting. I saw something like that one time, and I was very shocked because it wasn't flying point forward. It was flying front forward.
Yeah. And it's like, that is not aerodynamic. It's,
no.
Those things are not playing with they're just independent. That's gravity drive or something. Yeah.
And we know they have the patent for the TR3B. I mean, that's like a given. You can Google the patent for the TR3B and figure out how it works and look at all of that.
Yeah, except people look at the triangle reports. They were around before there was airplanes. Lots and lots of triangle reports. They've been coming in for centuries, and so there maybe the U.S. tried to imitate something, but it wasn't the originator. And most of the triangle reports are actually not U.S. stuff. Not stuff flying with the front forward, right? The big side forward. I don't think the TRB can even do that. So those are like imitation things, I think.
So were you helping reverse engineer any of these?
No, I didn't work for any government corporations. I have no security clearances. Purposely, I've never signed any of those papers. I've never been in the U.S. military or intelligence forces or anything. My dad was, but he said, once you sign those papers, you're their bitch for life. And I didn't want to be the U.S. government's bitch for life. Sorry, guys.
Smart.
Find somebody else to be your bitch. Yeah. I'm not going to be it. So, and it really sucks. Basically, the pay is crappy, and they put you in danger or whatever. They'll throw you away in a second. Yeah. So I don't want a boss like that.
Or kidnap you and put you somewhere that no one can ever find you and fake your death, and then you're just working for them forever. I think that's what's happened to a lot of people. Pat Price, I think that happened to the remote viewer, Pat Price. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Oh, yes. I've heard of, yeah. Some of those guys have come to sad ends. And then there was all those biological people that had like unusual numbers of deaths in those fields.
Yeah.
So, and alternative cancer researchers and other alternative healthcare people that were successful, like the guy found floating in a river, with a bullet hole in his chest. It was ruled suicide. Yeah, right. Or it's kind of like Arkansas, like a journalist investigating Clinton's is, found his house is ransacked. He's got 2 bullets in the back of his head. Right.
But it's a suicide. Shot himself in the back of the head twice.
Yeah, that's right. Well, maybe investigating the Clintons in Arkansas is suicidal, but there's no reason for the coroner to put that down. But that's just the way it is.
So whenever you said that they were contacting these beings to create these kinds of advanced craft. Do you know who the beings were or what they
Not
were called?
really. We're really sure. They were just, they had built some interesting devices and then, I guess, but they were probably putting out electromagnetic radiation or something, and they came and confiscated his little device. So I could talk to somebody privately about what it was, but not online. I probably
Yeah,
can't.
sorry, I was just pushing
But
you a little
that
bit
was
because
thing.
I'm
But
interested.
yeah, I could talk to you about it privately what it was. But yeah, so it was yeah, it was just you got to be careful on doing stuff like that. And I've actually held alien artifacts in my hands. So it's not like that stuff doesn't exist. It floats. They're out there, but you got to know the right people. And so it's not much you can make. It's like if somebody left a caveman a soda pop can, right?
Mm.
Ooh, that's really cool. You're not going to get a
Yeah.
lot of technology out of that. But some of the interesting things about authentic alien stuff is that it has a different isotopic signature than Earth stuff, or it has an or it has like the general one, because like the Earth, most metals on the Earth have different isotopes. That means they have the same number of protons, which gives you the same amount of electrons, so they chemically act the same, but they have different amounts of neutrons, so they have a different atomic weight. And so every planet, like if we looked at like silicon or iron or any basically element like on Mars or Earth, the signature of what Mars is totally different from Earth. So if I went to Mars and I smelted some metals and made an object, right? Aluminum or iron or whatever it was, right? And I took it to Earth and I compared it, I would know that thing was built from Mars materials versus Earth materials. And the stuff that comes from a lot of the stuff has isotopic signatures that are not like Earth, not like Mars, not like anything we have. And a lot of them, they actually have more of an isotopic signature of like what you'd expect to find like the iron, meteorites of iron, objects in the asteroid belt or perhaps somebody else's asteroid belt. So they weren't necessarily, yeah. So some of it looks like it was probably mined in space, not on Earth.
That's really interesting. That would be the way that you'd be able to tell if it was one of ours that
Oh
we've
yeah,
created or if it was an actual extraterrestrial craft. Because
it's
I,
easy. It's easy to do. You don't even have to damage the thing. It's called X-ray diffraction for spectroscopy, and you just put it in there and hit it with X-rays, and it'll put out, it'll have a response, and you can actually figure out the isotopic structure from that. So you don't have to destroy the object to test it.
so do you believe that we do have in our possession some of these
Oh
highly
yeah,
advanced craft?
I don't know about the whole craft, but pieces they definitely. I've held pieces of spacecraft, right? So yeah, definitely they have pieces and parts. Whether they got anything that works, or even if they got some, let's say a crash piece, we may not have the technology to reverse engineer. We're just not advanced enough. Like if 100, 200 years ago, somebody got a hold of like a walkie-talkie, right? Or a cell phone, right? 100 years ago, yeah, they could have it, but what would it? Is there any way you could do it? No, you couldn't. And so even if we have stuff, there may be things we just can't grasp because of that. But a lot of it, I think they can. They say a lot of things like Velcro and the laser and light fibers and a lot of other integrated circuits came from crashed spacecraft that we kind of reversed engineered to the best of our ability in our simple way to do what they were doing. And like night vision, that was another one. So that they peel the alien grays have, at least this is alleged, they're black. Well, they actually peel that off. They have eyes more like ours. And that black covering is actually like a contact lens, which allows them to see in the infrared, the ultraviolet, and all the other things. So it's like a night vision goggle. And in just a layer, and they put it in. So
do you think that a lot of this reverse engineered craft came from the Roswell incident? I know people have, they've done the crap out of the Roswell incident. Everyone,
yeah,
is talking
yeah.
about it. Do you think that that's where some of it came from?
Well, probably maybe some of it came from, but for most of the descriptions of the Roswell incident, that was just little pieces of whatever blew up. They've had like the alleged Aztec report. I don't know if the Aztec crash is like legitimate or not. It may not be, but they got a whole saucer. And they've had other things where they've had they had one I think in the 80s, or I think it was 80s or 70s, where some craft hit a Cessna and went down in Mexico, and the Mexicans grabbed it and were transporting the crash, the saucer craft. It's probably a drone, right? Like most of our stuff we send out as drones, right? So they probably the same way. And so they had loaded it on the back of like a thing, and then all the Mexican soldiers died. Actually, and then the U.S. grabbed it. So I think they hit them with nerve gas, killed them all, and then stole the thing, and said, "Oh, it's evil alien disease got out and killed them all." But I think it was U.S. nerve gas got them. And that's, you can go and read about that crash. And so they have crashes here and there, and they recover bits and pieces, or sometimes more. And I think they've probably done a lot of reverse engineering. I'm sure a lot of it's still beyond our capacity to really understand, but a lot of other things they've developed from that. So
yeah, I mean, we know that they've had highly advanced technology for a long time. I mean, the Bell craft in World War II, and then the Germans were brought over into the United States, Project Paperclip, and they continued doing everything that they were doing in Germany right in the United States right after the war, and they were developing apparently highly advanced technology. And from my understanding, I think personally that a lot of the craft that we see in the sky isn't extraterrestrial. I think that
no, I think a lot of it is
us.
yeah, but at least from what I've heard, because sometimes I'll go to like the Mars Society meetings and other meetings, and you'll sit back with other scientists and they'll talk about what they've been working on, right? And a lot of it is, over beers, hidden, there's no recording stuff. Yeah. So they're definitely working on, I know people personally do that, and work on recovered alien spacecraft stuff, and trying to do their best to like re-engineer it. But I think we haven't really mastered the power system. Some of this technology downstream, like the laser and stuff, we mastered, but the power structure, where they get their power, we really haven't mastered their ability to do that.
Yeah, that makes sense. You mentioned Mars in there, and we've had a lot of Mars news more in the past 6 months than I think that we ever have. There's so much anomalies on Mars, the Mars door, the Mars moon, Phobos, so much stuff going on in space. What do you think is going on Mars? Do you think that we have people on Mars, or no?
Well, I know they built some spacecraft that visited Mars, or they did the grand tour. They went all the way out to like Neptune and came back and stuff. But that was a pretty primitive craft, comparatively speaking. They didn't stop. They just flew by and took pictures. But and so they have stuff like that. And I'm not sure if if you wanted to go someplace and put up a base, Mars would be it. Because they always talking about a moon base, but we're really never going to have moon bases of any significance, because they've discovered like moon dust. The moon dust is basically powderized. It's powderized, or it's metal, glass, ceramic glass rock. It's like shards of glass, metallic glass, right? And like the third, I think, was Apollo 19 was the last one we sent to the moon, I think. And they were going to do a third spacewalk, but they decided not to for time reasons. And then when they looked at the space suits when they got back, they were glad they didn't do it, because the moon dust was so abrasive that it had, in the joints, if they'd gone out of the third walk, because there'd been so much damage, they could have easily leaked out. The air would have just leaked out on the various things. And also it's extremely, like, it's worse than the worst silicosis you could imagine, breathing moon dust, because it's just, these are like metallic shards of super sharp metal, right? They're basically it's just moon dust is super toxic. It's just like, it just destroys machines, destroys people, destroys anything. Whereas Mars is ideal because it's like the Earth, right? It's had water. They got sand, they got dust on Mars, but it's just like the dust on Earth, right? It's irritating. You don't like it, but it's rounded, it's smooth. It's like, it's been chemically reacted with water and stuff. So it's not toxic. And that's really important if you were going to put a base anywhere in the solar system, Mars would be your number one choice.
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw an article that I'm going to show you that there was they actually found human debris on Mars. Did you see this? It's from the Miami
Oh
Herald.
yeah.
Human trash discovered on Mars, but NASA explanation leaves unanswered questions. It looks like a piece of foil or some kind of blanket. You know those space blankets
Mhm.
that they have.
Yeah, and there may have been a lot of stuff, yeah. But how did it get there? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Aluminum foil. Well, obviously it blew, but it could have come off of one of our spacecraft, or are there other spacecraft going to Mars and people are just throwing the trash out, right? If the trash is blowing around, human trash is blowing around on Mars, just where did it come from? Whose human trash is it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's
Yeah,
a
so
surprise finding this year because descent stage crashed about 200 kilometers, 1.2 miles away. Did this piece land here after that, or was it blown by the wind?
yeah, it could have been blown by the wind. And that's the other thing that, things on Mars don't, like, remember they used to have the Voyage, they had the Voyagers, but also the other space probes. I think one of them's still working, the rovers.
Yeah, the
And they only figured they would last 3 to 6 months before dust on their solar panels would overcome, would be so dusty they couldn't get enough electricity. But every now and then they found that the solar panels cleared themselves. And eventually figured out there was those dust devils that they filmed on Mars. What's interesting, because Mars' atmosphere is like 1% that of the Earth's, or a little bit, actually it's a little bit less. It's there's no way physically it should be able to lift the dust off. But when they studied dust devils on the Earth, they found that at the top of a dust devil there's a negative charge, and at the bottom there's a positive charge. And so when that dust devil goes over the solar panel, it actually gives all the dust particles this huge positive charge. And that's what actually lifts them up off the panel and allows them to be sucked away. And that's also something to do with anti-gravity. That high positive charge at the bottom of tornadoes and dust devils is actually one of the reasons things lift, and not just the physical motion of the air. It's actually that positive charge on those objects helps lift them from the Earth's surface, just like it lifts them from Mars, because there's no way those dust particles should have been lifted by a dust devil on Mars, but with the positive charge kind of giving it an extra boost, it did.
it's interesting too with the rovers. Like, uh, we sent that first rover up in what, like 2011 or 2012, and now it's all of a sudden able to take selfies of itself.
Oh well, they do. They actually they take lots of pictures, and then they use a 3D software to do that. So they take a whole bunch of pictures, then they like merge them together.
And they put the rover in there too.
Yeah, they put the rover, because the rover has a camera on the end of a thing, so it can take like pictures everywhere. But we didn't have the software to actually do that. All they could do back when they originally had those was just take the pictures, right? And so they figured, well, no, you can take a bunch of pictures and we will put it in our computer, the 3D generator, and it will make like a selfie photo of the thing. And you don't see the hand sticking out, because they take you different pictures and they can just kind of,
Edit it out.
they erase it's a little bit of Adobe out or whatever they use to do that. But now we didn't have the technology, we didn't have the software technology to do it until recently. So now they can take selfies, but it's not
I was wondering, I was curious about that, because I was like, what is happening? How is this? How does this technology all of a sudden have the ability to take selfies of itself? Like, who's taking these pictures?
It was image processing technology. Yeah, and they don't tell you that. Like, if you on the back of every rover, they have like a little American flag and then some other colors, and that's a color chart, right? And that Mars actually has blue skies. It doesn't have red skies like they always show you, and the color is different. They also have a lot of like green blotches on Mars. It's not due to algae, it's due to actually olivine and in the rocks, the marine rocks, because otherwise they found that if they let it out, when they did it, Mars has blue skies, right, like the Earth, and these black lava rocks with green blotches on them. And they were saying, oh no, people were saying there's life there. So a lot of times the Mars protos that you see are not color correct to what they actually are.
So they're just putting a red filter over
basically they just give it a reddish hue versus its real colors. And you can see it because sometimes they'll, like on those selfies or other things, they'll take a picture of the spacecraft, and you can actually see the color on. They have like a color chart on the back, right? That's supposed to calibrate your cameras, and you can see that it's not the colors. The colors, red, white, and blue, green, the other colors, right? They're right there. I'm not seeing the colors in vivid, nice color like we see. I've seen this red hue they've spaced over everything. So that's a
Wow.
little nasty that they did. That
Why would they
they've been
do
doing
that?
that
Why,
for
would-
years.
why would they make it
Well,
seem
because they didn't want people to think that there's life on Mars. I think there's bacteria life. I think the first Vikings discovered life, but they say it was hydrogen peroxides of some sort. But I think they did. And then also when they put it like the blue, they did it right. There was these green splotches on the rock that looked like lichens. It's actually olivine, but they didn't want people to think that, anyway. So they just made this thing to not. It's the same way with. I used to work with a guy years and years ago, Jose Escamilla. He's long past. He made like a show, Moon Rising, and he had some of the original. Not the Gemini. What was that? Luna something or other. He had some of the original like pictures when they first got the first orbiters they put in, non-manned orbiters, and Luna something 7 or whatever. He has like the original tracks on that. But and so what they did is there's a lot of stuff on the moon they don't want you to see. But back then they would just airbrush it out. But they just brush, like, let's say there's a strange triangular thing they didn't want you to see. They'd airbrush it out and you could see that there's a triangle there, right? Because it's airbrushed. They didn't know about blending back then. So there's a building, like a triangle building or a dome. And then so Jose Escamilla, he got this called Moon Rising, and you go in there and he just goes through all the photos that they released from that one mission that they, the first really good photos. And you can just see all the stuff that's been photoshopped or been airbrushed out. The old style, right? They didn't do any blending. So it's just so obvious. Can't see what it was, but you can see, oh, look, there's a little dome. There's a little skyscraper-like thing. There's a weird triangle shape.
they were using Microsoft Paint on the Windows 95 computer.
Whatever it was. It was ridiculous. They didn't know anything about blending back then. Now, of course, they have blending and do a fine job, but back then, and we did go on the moon because the Japanese went up there and Japanese put a satellite around the moon and took lots and lots of pictures, especially really good high quality resolution ones of like the landing sites. You can even see like the trail, people's footprints and the trails, the vehicles that they had there, and all this trash they left all over the place. Obviously, they're leaving trash on Mars as well. They trashed the moon already. And
yeah, but did we get to the moon in a conventional rocket? I believe that we went to the moon. You think we went in a conventional rocket?
They made some things because they were worried, what happens if the astronauts don't survive. So they actually made some films for the first moon lunar mission. But and a lot of the stuff that they actually took, like the first lunar mission, there was all kinds of spacecraft up along the ridge of the crater where they landed in. And Neil Armstrong took pictures of that. They took out the cameras and they'd have like the whole picture, all these alien spacecraft all around the Earth, because they're probably there to, see humans first landing on a planet. So there was like a big bunch of spacecraft. They're big ones, right? They took film of that, but we never get to see it. They just don't let us see anything, basically. If there's anything they don't, for national security reasons, right? The same guys that put fluoride in our water, like the Nazis put in their prisoner of war camps, so the Soviets did. Those guys, they don't really consider us people. We're prisoners in their.
So you think that we can go further than the Earth's atmosphere in a standard rocket?
Yeah, I think you could do that. Yeah, I have friends who've been in the secret, quote, a secret space program in the U.S. government. They went up in an old Apollo craft. They were on a rescue mission. Some people know what I'm talking about, but and yeah, he was up in space. He smuggled a camera and he brought back all kinds of cool pictures.
What about Werner von Braun's statement that it would take a rocket the size of an Empire State Building to get to the moon, and we couldn't get there in standard rocketry?
Well, not with his. Yeah, my dad was the Air Force expert in rockets. And they actually sent him, he did things like, he did the Genie project. You can actually go see him fly wingman on the Genie missile project. He ran that. They made 3,500 of those, and they weren't aimed at Russian bombers. They were aimed at alien spacecraft, by the way. And, in case the aliens invaded, we could put these basically plane air-to-air missiles with nukes on the end of them. Why did they make 3,500 of them? There's not 3,500 Russian bombers. Why would you make 3,500 of those nukes? Well, obviously, in case of an alien invasion, you could take their out. In fact, aliens were actually sabotaging his the Genie project. That's why they put him on it. And then that they also put him and sent him in there to Werner von Braun's, and he got there and he talked to Werner von Braun. He says, "Well, this looks like a bunch of V6s, strapped together." And he says, "That's exactly what it is, And what it was, they couldn't get enough thrust to get off the ground. They needed 4% more thrust to get to the moon. So my dad was there for 6 months supervising Werner von Braun and his other 11 Germans. And actually, I guess he could claim success, but he didn't actually do it. And one day when they were doing a engine test, the bearing for one of the pumps snapped. So the pump was just running free in its housing, and they got 7% more thrust. So they just cut the damn pump out, put it a straight line, and boom, we went to the moon. So that's actually how we got to the moon. Was a bearing, or the shaft broke on a pump, and getting rid of that pump gave them 7% more thrust, and they got to the moon. Yeah, and actually they went around the Van Allen belts, guys. The Van Allen belts are a belt, right? They're around your middle. That's the same place your belt is. It's around your middle. The Van Allen belts are around the middle of the Earth. The poles don't have any Van Allen belts. Just go out around the poles. Then you don't have to worry about Van Allen belts. So the amount of radiation the astronauts were exposed to was it lowered their IQ like 1% at least. If you look at some of the damage the cosmic rays caused to their helmets and stuff when they looked at it with electron microscopes, oh man, those dudes were going into space is not good, without proper shielding. It really messed with them biologically.
That's really interesting. And I'm not opposed to it. It's just what people talk about, that we couldn't get there in standard rocketry, and maybe we can.
I've had friends personally been there. They went up and they were in orbit, as civilians, and then they came back down after they got their job done. So yeah, we can go in orbit. It's easy, and we can probably go further. One of the reasons we haven't gone back to the moon is we got banned. I think it was Apollo 19 when there was 10,000 or more ham radio operators that could listen to the lunar program. So they had all their antennas pointed up, listening. And when Apollo 19 left the moon's gravity and kind of came into the influence of the Earth's gravity, everybody heard this message, "Do not return," really loud. And the US never went back to the moon. So, because it's somebody else's property. And they don't want to. And another thing, moon rising, the part of the thing Jose never gave us, there's a guy who had a 20-inch telescope, a reflector, and he'd just been taking pictures for moon. And he had dozens of objects flying between the Earth and the moon. Dozens of big objects. They could be 60, 70 kilometers across. Some of them, you can see the shadow on the moon and the object in the picture, right? As the shadow moves across, you can see the object and the shadow cast on the moon, and this is from a long time ago. And so there's big objects moving in space, big objects all the time. And half of the spy satellites the US has are pointed to outer space, not at Earth. So why are half of our spy satellites pointed to outer space, right? If we're supposed to be watching the Russians, the Chinese, because it's busy out there. And I think, and if you've seen probably pictures of the guys that do nothing but film the moon, and they'll have all these objects will come off of it or stuff, this guy was doing it for years before those guys do it. And so now you can see there's somebody on the moon, multiple, from all the different spacecrafts that you've seen on the moon's surface or coming out of the moon. There must be, because there's so wide variety of them. There could be like a dozen different, groups there. I mean, if you're going to study the Earth or what's going on here, we're just a recent phenomenon. We've only the last 500 years or even less have we had really any impact that would be noticeable. And the rest of the time, Earth's been pretty much a biological gem. And so, if you were going to set up something to study the Earth, you'd put it on the moon. And a lot of times, you see a lot of alien spacecraft reports or saucer reports, they're pulling water out of reservoirs. There's a huge section of that's what they do. These objects came down and they pulled water into their spacecraft and they left. The moon has no water. If you want to get water and other things, and also on the space station, they put these little aerogel pads on the outside, so things that impact, they can get cosmic dust, right? And they took those things down and they took them there. And you know what they found? Plankton. Plankton from the Earth in orbit around the Earth. How did it get there? Well, underwater flying saucers are one of the most common, probably the most common UFO reports. They're in the oceans, right? And if you're a saucer in the ocean, you fly out of the Earth's atmosphere and you get into orbit and you leave, stuff's going to come off your spacecraft.
Plankton's coming off and then sticking.
Yeah, plankton's coming off. It's Earth plankton. It isn't space plankton. It's Earth plankton. It's got Earth DNA in it. So yeah, but how does it? And they were trying to come up with all reasons how plankton could get into orbit, right? Oh, it was like giant lightning storm would push it up into the atmosphere and then it would go up, into orbit, guys. I don't think so. So you can see stuff that's, fall. Basically, it's probably just water coming off, spacecraft leaving the Earth. And how else do you get plankton in orbit, right?
Wow, that's really interesting. Before I let you go, I want to go through a few of these articles that I had posted up here, and I'll let you go. Let's see here, because I want to get these out. I've been saving these bad boys for a perfect time. Okay, so this one is that I was showing you earlier is the plasma breakthrough that could let humans live on Mars. This is by the Independent. A new plasma breakthrough could help humans live on Mars, according to the scientists who made it. Scientists has helped to build a system that would help support life as well as make chemicals needed for processing fuels, make materials for budding and fertilizing plants.
Oh yeah, that's just, they basically rocks or aluminum silicate oxides, right? And so if you want to get oxygen, where are you going to get it? You can get it from rocks or water. So yeah, if you can, I guess it sounds like just a processing. They can process, materials better because you could turn Mars soil into bricks. That's something we could do, right? And if you can get oxygen out of the rocks, that's easy.
So would you be able to plant something on Mars and have it grow, or would there not be enough oxygen?
No, you could. Mars's atmosphere is too thin, but it's basically carbon dioxide with a little bit of argon. But you could just pump it. You could pump it into an inflatable structure and grow stuff in it. It wouldn't be a problem at all.
Oh, like an enclosed structure.
Yeah, like a greenhouse or something where you have solar panels that collect the light into like light fibers. And then the light fibers go into, your building. They have those on Earth and they're really pretty efficient. So you don't get the heat. So you can like you just harvest the frequencies of sunlight that plants use, which is only like, plants don't use that much of the spectrum. A lot of the spectrum they don't use. So you could probably maybe 10%, and then the rest of it goes to electricity. Yeah. So they have, and here's another one. Yeah. I from the results of the Viking probes and other probes that we've done, it's almost certain that there's life on Mars, bacterial life of some sort. There appears to be a good supporting evidence for bacterial life. And there's that mysterious methane. You probably heard of that one?
Yeah.
It's a seasonal thing. So every season there's this burst of methane that suddenly goes, they don't know where it's coming from, but it really looks like a biological produced methane that's seasonal.
Yeah, I find it interesting that they always come out and they're like, oh yeah, there's extraterrestrial life forms, but then it turns out to be like traces of organic carbon, which is a life form. But I feel like it gets everyone excited whenever they see that headline. And they're like, oh yeah, I found an extraterrestrial life form in space, and then they click on the article and it's a carbon or some kind of organic carbon that it come from. But it's still really interesting, and I think that you're right in saying that they're trying to cover up the fact that there are different kinds of life forms on Mars by making the tint red.
I'm pretty sure there's primitive stuff. There's no way. Mars is just too small to retain a magnetic field, and without a magnetic field you're never going to protect your atmosphere, and we can't really survive without a magnetic field. That's one thing they don't talk about. Like if you're going to go to Mars, you're going to actually have to create a magnetic field, because they did studies. You can actually make negative fields that counteract our field. So you can make spaces that are like null, that have no magnetic field in them on Earth in laboratory settings. And they put like a whole bunch of eggs in there, chicken eggs at various levels of development. and one's just about to hatch to ones that are just been fertilized. And basically none of the eggs hatched. Without the magnetic field, everything, the ones that were just about to hatch just kind of deformed and died. And the other eggs just really never stopped developing wherever they were at. So we need a magnetic field just as much as we need air to breathe to survive. So if we're going to go to Mars and live there or the moon or anything else, we have to make a magnetic field environment like the Earth's. Otherwise, we can't survive either. Even the trip there would probably be fatal if we didn't have a magnetic field like the Earth's.
So you'd have to
talk about that.
Artificially create a
Well,
electromagnetic.
we can do it. It's easy to do,
Yeah.
but it has to. Yeah, we need a magnetic field just as much as an atmosphere to breathe in. But it's not obvious.
I found this one
when they don't have one.
Yeah. I found this article very interesting, which is this was like a few weeks ago or whatever. I'm sure you've seen it. It's from the dailymail.com. China announces via state media that it may have detected signals from an alien civilization before mysteriously deleting the report. China has claimed it may have received a message from alien civilizations using $180 million Sky Eye telescope, according to reports.
Well, it may be true or not, but one of my professors back when I was getting my master's, he knew the head of SETI, which is that search for extraterrestrial intelligence. And he said that they had collected something over like 59 different, what they were pretty much clear messages from alien civilizations, right? For the SETI process. And I asked him, well, why wouldn't you release that? And he said, nobody will release it because it would mean the instant destruction of your career. So SETI just, I don't know, that was like in the 90s, right? So SETI, I think they shut it down, but SETI discovered lots of alien messages or coded stuff. It's not aimed at us, obviously. It's between, aliens and we just overhearing their conversations. But yeah, so that was, they discovered a bunch. But they never released it because it would be the instant destruction of your career. You never get funding. You'd be running. So that's why he said that's why it's never been released and never will be released.
Look how big this thing is, though. 500 meters. Jeez,
oh yeah,
huge freaking telescope.
And it didn't fall down like ours.
Incredible.
We lost that Arecibo one.
China's doing all kinds of crazy stuff, bro. They're creating artificial suns.
And it's working. Yeah, we lost. Yeah, they gave, I don't know, some sort of criminality took out the Arecibo one because they had gone in and replaced the cables, and then the cables failed. So they obviously were, it was, government contracts, U.S. government contracts are so badly given. They're basically, fraudsters. It's like no bid contracts. They're given to, that's why they send a lot of money to people, right, to get contracts. So it's a corrupt system. And so the cables that they got for the Arecibo telescope were crap. Obviously, because they were fraudulently, given a fraudulent concept. So they failed, and we lost our radio telescope because of corruption.
This one just came out the other day, and it says it's from the Sun. Truth is out. World's best ever UFO image. The Caravan photo showing a 100-foot craft finally revealed after being hidden for 30 years. And this is the photo. There was a lot of controversy around this photo. A lot of people said that it didn't exist. There was a bunch of recreations of the photo, and then apparently this journalist, Dr. David Clark, tracked down the former RAF press officer Craig Lindsay, who still had a copy of the photo, and it was taken in the UK.
That's probably, and that was before a lot of the Photoshop. Yeah, it's real. Oh, by the way, my friend Jose Escamilla, he passed away. You ever seen the LA UFO pictures from like the 1940s where they have the UFO and all the spotlight shining on it?
Yes.
He actually had 7 minutes of movie footage of that event. And
where they were shooting at it?
Yeah, he had 7 minutes of it actually flying around being shot at. And he had it in his safety deposit box when he died. And I don't know where the hell that thing went, but it disappeared. But he had 7 minutes of video footage of the LA UFO. So anybody out there who, Jose Escamilla, he had a safety deposit box with that film and some other good stuff. And he passed. I don't know whoever got a hold of it, but there's 7 minutes of footage of the LA UFO flying around being shot at.
Yeah, that's incredible. There was a bunch of eyewitness reports of that. They said that it was all over. There's a bunch of crafts and stuff all over Long Beach. It wasn't just in
Yeah,
LA, that it was all over the place.
yeah, and I don't think they shot any of them down. They're
I don't
just
think so either.
laughing at
Yeah.
us because they know what we have and stuff. Yeah, they're super advanced, and a lot of times, there'll be things like I knew Trevor James Constable, and he was etheric rain engineering, and he also did stuff. If they live in the sky, he wrote that book. That was one of them, and then what was the other? He had another one on UFOs. I'll have to think about it to remember his other book. It's a classic, The Cosmic Pulse of Life. That's the other one. And so he had stuff like because I'd visit his house, and he had things like you could see they had set up cameras like you'll see like one camera is infrared and one camera is regular, and you can see objects like UFO like objects in the infrared camera, but you can't see them in the visual. So a lot of these things appear to be able to cloak themselves in the visual things, so we physically can't see them, but we can see them with infrared or ultraviolet or some other things where our physical eyes can't see, but our technology can.
Well, if you
So
could develop some kind of plasma field to coat the craft in, then that would serve as some kind of cloaking device as well. I mean, we know that the Nazis in World War II was using plasma in their craft, and then also the Sonora Aero Club in the mid 1800s was using spinning mercury for their airships as well. So if they were able to make that plasma force field around their craft, that would also maybe serve as not only a shield for any debris in space, but also some sort of cloaking technology as well.
yeah, I would think that they would have. Yeah, that would be elementary because if you look at how fast our technology is growing in the last, let's say, 200 years, and you imagine a civilization that's tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of years old. I mean, the technologies. I mean, virtually anything we could imagine they have, and stuff we couldn't even imagine they have.
Well, thanks so much, Ken, for coming on my show. I really appreciate you, my friend. I had a wonderful time speaking with you. I really much enjoyed it. Where can people find you online if they would like to get a hold of you or plug your website or any place else that people can contact you at?
Check that out. Yeah, don't just go to shopc60.com and you can go to our website. And of course, don't forget to use Giant 10 for that's a discount code, get you 10% off. And even if you use the code and it goes to some other sale, Ryder will still get the benefit of that sale. So it doesn't matter as long as you use that link to go there. And I don't know, you could probably, I think, yeah, we could get a link maybe for the bottom of the show notes for you.
Awesome. Yes,
And
I will.
that'll make it easy for you, easy for your customers too.
Kinds of cool. What?
Cool stories I could talk about in future shows.
Oh yeah, I would love to have you back on to talk about. I mean, we could probably go on for another hour or so just chatting, but I know you're busy and I know that you're traveling,
Yep.
so I'm going to let you go. And thank you so much. And make sure to check the link in the description of this video and use promo code Giants10 to get 10% off of your order. For everyone else, thanks for watching and listening. Much love to everyone in the chat. Please be sure to hit the thumbs up button to help the channel out in the YouTube algorithm. Share, subscribe, hit the bell icon as well for notifications. The link to my channel on Rokfin is in the description. Sign up over there, hit the follow button for my premium content. And you can catch this episode and any of my other episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and download them directly to your device for free. Links are in the description. And remember, we're not only in a spiritual war, but a war on humanity. Stay aware, stay alert, keep loving your heart for everyone. Stay safe out there. And remember, if you can see through the illusion, you are the solution. See you guys next time.